Welcome to the Ethics Alliance conversation.
Our journey started some 180 years ago with 5 nuns in full habit getting on a boat and coming to Australia. Big petticoats, long heavy gowns, and they took a very long journey of over 4 months to get here. We've come a long way since that time, but we've inherited from them a very strong culture, a very strong mission and very strong values. So it's our challenge now as the lay community carrying on that heritage to ensure that those values and mission continue going forward. So about 15 years ago, when looking at how we could honour our past, looking at what the Sisters of Charity and their mission and values had brought to us, as well as inheriting an excellent hospital through them, we wanted to see how we could make that ongoing into the future. We wanted to acknowledge the present, acknowledge our teams that were working within the organisation, whilst also addressing a lot of the challenges and opportunities that were being presented to us. We knew that one of the biggest things in our favour was our excellent nursing care. Our patients told us that, our doctors told us that, and our staff were proud of the care that they could provide. So in planning for our future, we looked at building our brand, our culture, and our patient outcomes. So in doing that, we reviewed our systems, our frameworks, and our governance structure to see what we could do that would enhance those things. And in 2004, we embarked on the Magnet journey. Magnet is an international accreditation given out by the American Nurse Credentialing Centre and recognises and promotes excellence in nursing. It's a framework that influences both your governance, your systems, and your structures within an organisation. To embark on this journey, we first had to review our balanced scorecard and see what we were actually recording and seeing was it really relevant to what we needed to be measuring. We then disseminated that information to the staff on a monthly basis. So any staff member can actually log into our system live and look at the data to see how they're doing and how they're performing. And that's from a patient perspective, a staff perspective, and then, although we're a not-for-profit, a financial perspective as well.
We're about to think about, again, how we reward and support our people and the performance they contribute in the business. And clearly we're on a path around focusing on quality of inputs and engagement and experience, which is very different to potentially what has occurred in the last 20 years. So as we embark on this journey and we think about the leadership maturity that we have, we need to continue to grow around subjective assessment of behaviours. Any guidance that you'd suggest? I think, Sarah, about some of the work that potentially St Vincent's are doing around the ethics and the matching to values would be really helpful to explore a bit further.
So, please.
I think that's a really tricky one because obviously you try and employ people who will fit the culture of your organisation straight up. People can perform very well at interview, and we don't do psychometric testing, partly because of the cost. We're not a big organisation, but we can't afford to do that sort of level of testing all the time. But we do really hold people account during their probationary periods, and we closely monitor, are they fitting into our values during that period?
Do you, when you apart from using psychometric testing though, when you're interviewing, are you trying to pick up cues in terms of their values and principles?
Yes, we ask values. It's a compulsory question in our interviewing is that we have a mission and values question that every position, even cleaning, would have to answer. So obviously different questions for different levels, but we have that as part of our interview, and then we do monitor it very closely. In fact, our code of conduct is what we monitor all behaviours against, and we often use that to terminate staff during the probationary period if we feel like they're not meeting our code of conduct. And it might just be that they're not a good fit for the values of the organisation. But when you're trying to then tie that back to reward and recognition, being a not-for-profit organisation, most of our staff are on an EBA. We don't have bonuses, we don't have any of that sort of level of reward and recognition from a financial perspective. We have to try and be creative in how we do it in other ways. So we do recognise staff on a regular basis. Most of our units have individual awards that they hand out on a monthly basis, which are peer nominated. So and they're normally based on the values. So please nominate your peer who's exceeded one of the values this month, and they reflect back on those. So the staff are always thinking about the values, are always thinking about how each other are behaving in alignment with those values. And then we have some more organisational-wide annual awards for staff that we try and recognise them in that way, but we don't have the like the banking industry, the financial incentives, because all our staff are on EBAs. Through Magnet, there are 4 pillars that we need to adhere to and follow. One of those is transformational leadership. The next one's structural empowerment, exemplary professional practice, and new knowledge and innovation. So under transformational leadership, as in many organisations, that simply means having strong leaders that inspire the staff. Strategic plans that are taken right down to a unit level and developed in consultation with the staff at a unit level that feed up to the overall strategic plan. The leadership team has to be visible, and the staff have to feel like their voices are counted and that they have a say in how things are done, that their practice is supported, and that they feel valued within our organisation. Structural empowerment means we have a very flat operation structure. Communication is very clear up and down the organisation, and up communication is really important to our staff, that they know that they're being heard at a management level. Nurses involved in organisational decision making. We actually have nurses sitting on the frontline nurses who care for patients at the bedside, sitting on the Nurse Executive Council and every council that we have within the Nursing Directorate to ensure that they have a say in how things are run. We also try and enhance professional development. Over 76% of our nursing staff have graduate qualifications, and much of that is done through our partnerships with the community. We have a relationship with one of the universities, UTAS, where all our staff can study at that university for free up to the doctoral level. It's at no cost to the organisation and at no cost to the staff member. So we have a lot of staff taking that up all the time. At the moment, we actually have 13 doctoral students doing their research within the organisation. Exemplary professional practice is the 3rd pillar, and that's all about our care delivery being integrated, multidisciplinary, including the patient and the families in the decision-making regarding their care. We also have consumer reps on all our councils, so we actually have consumers from the community who come and are on all our different councils to ensure that their voice is heard in how we do things. Part of Magnet is ensuring workplace advocacy, and that includes addressing ethical issues. So our staff every month present at Nursing Grand Rounds, and part of that component of their presentation will be the ethical dilemmas involved in caring for a patient with that particular case. In addition to that, all our executive leadership team undertake monthly ethical forums where they can go and discuss ethical issues with a Professor Bernadette Tobin who facilitates those. Patients' rights, privacy, security and confidentiality is also the hallmark of this EPP. Staff can bring forward concerns in regards to patient treatment or management or systems or processes at any time without having fear of repercussions. We've got a very transparent and open system where staff can report issues, and they do that freely and openly. And it's all about also ensuring that our staff feel autonomous in the care that they can provide. Often nurses are seen as the doctor's handmaiden. In our organisation, the doctors wouldn't say that. They really rely on the nursing staff to assist them in caring for the patients. It's a team effort. And the final pillar is new knowledge and innovation. And that's about integrating evidence-based practice and research into our everyday doing. Our staff at the bedside will often come up with innovations that they want to trial. We've got a staff member at the moment who's developed an app on how to manage cardiac failure in the community, and she's working on that. We've had another staff member recently who developed a urine colour scale, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got one nurse saying a patient's got dark red urine and another one saying it's light rosé, that could mean a readmission or not to hospital. So they've actually published that, and it's been used internationally now. This has resulted in many different things, but one of the things that, because of our data collection, we've been able to see, and that the systems are ensuring that the staff get this feedback, is a great reduction in nurse-sensitive indicators. These are the indicators that a nurse can actually impact on a patient care. For example, pressure injuries have reduced by over 50%. Patient falls have reduced by 25%. We've seen an impact on our staffing as well, which is evidence of our great culture. Our turnover rate back in 2004 was 18.8%. It's now below 3%. Our RN vacancy rate was at 7.5% or 56 RN short. We're now at 0 and have been at 0 since 2010. That's a saving just in turnover of $1.8 million to the organisation. So improving your culture and having the right systems in place can actually impact on your bottom line dramatically. We've also seen a reduction in our work hours. That's how we measure our patient staffing efficiencies of 10%. At the same time, patient revenue has gone up 60%. So these improving staff culture and therefore improves patient outcomes, which therefore improves your bottom line. During this time, patient satisfaction has gone from 89% to 93%, which is one of the highest in the country. And during this same period, our staff culture of engagement has gone from 65% to 89% staff engaged. So you can see that improving staff culture improves patient outcomes, improves financial benefits, and it's about having the systems and processes in place to ensure that that culture can be sustained. We're also very proud of the fact that our Net Promoter Score is currently sitting at 86, which is great, and one of the highest I've seen around in a long time.
In trying to understand what would make people comply or not, I've come to the conclusion that a big part of that is having the permission to ask why rules and regulations are what they are and openly challenge that. And I've never worked in a workplace culture where that has been tolerated, let alone fostered. So I'd love to know any insights from the panel as to what can be done to help with that, particularly in a training context and around the story sharing.
Stories of creating places where it's okay to challenge the prevailing norms. Anyone want to go first or at all?
I can talk from our perspective. Okay. We have been challenged on different policies that we have within the organisation by staff, and we're happy to review those policies when they come up with why is it like this, and generally we'll go back to the literature, look at what the evidence best practice is out there that everyone's using, and if we can see that there is opportunity to change, then we are happy to change it as long as it still meets best practice. We can't always do the change, and then it's a matter of making sure you feed back to the staff member as to why you can't do the change. If there's legislation involved in the policy as well, obviously we have to comply to the legislation as well. But we will review policies when staff say, you want staff to comply with a policy rather than work around and break the policy, so you need to make it workable, but ensure you're complying with best practice and legislation at the same time. So we do, and it's creating an environment where staff can either do it. They bring up, we have an education council, they bring it up through education as a question, or they bring it up through the policy and procedure council and question it there. But any staff member can email the chair of the policy commission council and question a policy, no problem. It happens regularly. It hasn't all been plain sailing though. We have gone through lots of challenges. In the last 6 months, we've had a complete new management team come in, new CEO, new CFO, new director of nursing. And it's actually been really incredible watching the staff remind them at every meeting that our mission and values are core to what we do. If they think management are changing things too rapidly or not considering our mission and values, they're the first ones to put up their hand and tell them that they don't think it's in line with our mission or in line with our values. And I think part of that is having that robust framework whereby staff feel like they have a say in what's going on within the organisation. And hopefully we can continue to fulfil the mission of those 5 nuns who got on the boat back in Ireland and came those 4 months by sea in their habits to fulfil the healing ministry of Christ here in Sydney. Thank you.